I want to just circle back to what we talked about earlier, the shootings today, and the reality of political violence in America, and how divided America really is. And the divide in America right now is really the culmination. It's the logical conclusion of two things: the fact that we are a democracy and we allow opposition, and the liberalization of media. And where we have, in terms of our mainstream media, we have everything being reduced down to basically 5 major outlets or 5 major corporations that control our mainstream media. We do have a liberalization effect, a democratization effect online with regards to media. And this has created an environment where everyone can live in their hermetically sealed bubbles. They can live in their echo chambers, and no one can really break through those echo chambers. And there's no driving force for anyone in this equation, especially not the editors at these outlets. There's no driving force to compel them to be responsible when there is a direct connection to your profit margin and how irresponsible you can be. The more salacious the headline, the more clicks. The more outrageous the story, the more clicks. And so your bottom line is directly tied to how outrageous you can be. And so long as that's the fact of life, which I don't see that changing, nor do I know if I actually want that to change. But as long as that is the fact of life, we will always have these siphons, these siphoned off communities that can hear exactly what they want to hear, that tells us that everybody in the other siphon, everybody in the other silo is a monster and that they're not human. And I want to be clear, what I'm not saying and what I'm not doing here is drawing a false equivalence between the type of madness that we see in one party versus the other party. Right? In many ways, this model has been perfected by Fox News, the mother of this last generation of this madness, Fox News. They have now dropped their subtitle of Fair and Balanced. And thankfully, they have gone ahead and gotten rid of that, because everybody realized all along they were never fair and balanced. But that model was so profitable that it saturated and it trickled down to every single outlet, big or small, online, on television, in print. It became the model through which millions upon millions, billions of dollars have been made. And because of that model, it is now possible for an individual to live in a world where they never have to hear a competing idea. And that's where we are. And there is no solution for it. I'm afraid that there is no solution for it, because any solution would entail the curtailing of the freedom of speech. Any solution that says, if in response to this attack today, if someone said, we're going to crack down on hate speech, we're going to crack down on, how are we defining hate speech? Are we defining it now based on the political affiliation of the victims today? In other words, hate speech now is anyone who speaks out against the Trump administration. If that's the case, then we're in more trouble than I can even imagine right now. But we have all the elements. We have all the elements in place, and the only thing that really stops. I was reading. I'm not sure the outlet. I think it may have been Newsweek. Don't ask me why I was reading Newsweek. I was there, but as I was reading on Newsweek, they started off the conversation with America's cold civil war, playing off the Cold War that never really went hot. But we're in a cold civil war, and we have factions, we have sub-factions, and we have a great abyss that divides us. And I read that, and it really just kind of, thought about this all day long. And the reality of it is that there's really only one saving grace in America. And it's really the fact that America is big enough, our military forces are strong enough to crush any rebellion that ever thought about getting off the ground. And I say that almost tongue in cheek. I say that tongue in cheek, but realistically, this idea that is latent in extremist circles in the United States of America that there could be a violent revolution is one of the most irresponsible and not only irresponsible, insidious, but also just imbecilic ideas imaginable. There is no winning of a violent revolution on either side of the equation, particularly on the left side of the equation, because if I could be so coy, this dude shot about 50 or 75 rounds and the only person that was killed was him. Leftists, if you, I mean, we're talking about right-wing militias that have been training, that have been in the woods, that know their way. I mean, they got little girls that run around on video now where they're trained and they go through the jungle and just accuracy, just shot, 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 shot. You know, this idea of a leftist violent revolution, if anybody is playing around with that idea, please, for your own, for the sake of everyone involved, stop. Just stop. Because it's ridiculous. It is not a fight. Noam Chomsky said it's not a fight that we can win because that's not who we are. That's not what we stand for. That's not what we represent. Therefore, that's not what we train for. And today is the quintessential example of it. 2 minutes of shooting, shot after shot after shot after shot. And it looks like the only person who died in this incident, we're still waiting to hear on Scalise and everyone who's in critical condition. We wish them well, even if Scalise is who he is, and we'll talk about who he is when he fully recovers. We'll leave that until he recovers. But the only person that was killed was the guy with the high-power rifle. Meanwhile, some of my friends, conservative friends in the South, they've been shooting guns since they were 2. They've been gutting, you know, their kill since they were 6. They've been living in the woods, training just to be good hunters since they were 7. Not only that, but even those right-wing militias, the reality of it is that there is not going to be a violent revolution in the United States of America that America itself will not protect itself from. And anyone who's fueling that idea, even quietly, even just kind of tongue in cheek, they're so delusional and they're being so irresponsible. Because at the end of the day, the only change, like Bernie Sanders said, the only real change that we can affect in the United States of America is through the system that now has sufficient enough power that it doesn't matter what your ideology is, left or right, it has sufficient enough power to crush any violent revolution that would rear its head. That being said, have a good night.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.